Welcome back. The conversation continues. Is Nigeria practicing true federalism? Well, there's been several calls for the restructuring of Nigeria and a return to the true practice of that word, federalism, from various sectors, from the civil societies, politicians, and everyone who has vested interest in the entity called Nigeria. Let's listen to what an elder statesman has to say on this issue.
We have to restructure. Without the restructuring in this country, I cannot see us transforming it into one nation. We have to, I also suggested that we should have a national conference of ethnic nationalities. Bring the ethnic nationalities together so that we can tell ourselves the honest truth about ourselves. We are not prepared to do that. The problem is leadership. We need a leader who appreciates the importance of this mission, this dream, and who is prepared to work for it. Nothing is ever said about this. Since Buhari took over, has he ever said one word about how to transform Nigeria into one nation? They don't believe in restructuring. You can't transform this nation unless you restructure the federal system. Yes. So, at 85, I'm still hoping and praying that our dear country will be transformed into one nation.
Professor Ben Nwabueze, senior advocate of Nigeria, and is also an author. Well, we've heard what he has to say. Let's go back to the issue of the 2014 National Conference. In fact, one of the recommendations was based on the return to you advocated strongly that the presidential system, the federal system, be reviewed to cut down the cost of governance and also tidy up a lot of loopholes in the Nigerian polity. Would you say the Buhari administration should go back and maybe take a closer look at some recommendations that were made during the 2014 confab, I beg your pardon, or should they embark on a totally new adventure, since those recommendations seem to be lying fallow as the case is now?
Well, it's, when they were campaigning for election last year, the promise changed. They got a mandate for 4 years. 1 year has gone out of the 4 now, remaining 3. In the last 1 year, the federal government of Nigeria has not tied 1 kilometer of road. Electricity, now to the Nigerians called the Minister of Power, Minister of Darkness. Every sector, nothing has happened. I was told that nothing will happen because it's like you are going to, a friend invited you to a wedding, and as your man said you should wear agbada, and when you go to your tailor, give your tailor 5 years of clothes, and say you should make agbada for you after 5 years. It's not possible. This system has entered a terminal crisis. All they are doing now is running away from the problem. So if there is no way nothing will happen in this country except with the structure, and time is running out fast. In fact, if they don't move out time, a time is going to come in this country that they will hog that report on their head. They won't send anybody to buy it. So they must do it now because time is running out.
To tell you the truth, Emmanuel, I want us to put the issue of restructuring in perspective. I do not understand what Nigerians mean by restructuring.
Okay.
Are you restructuring the federal system, or do you want the system to go back to the regional system of government? It doesn't also stop the fact that we're a federation. Whether it is a structure of 3 units, 3 regions or 4 regions or 36 states, the fact remains that you can still practice a federal structure within that system.
But they're not practicing it.
So, but the issue really, like I want us to put it in perspective. The issue is there is discontent in the land.
Yes.
What is causing the discontent?
The structure.
It is not the structure.
What is it?
It's the infractions by the players.
What are the
The
players?
infractions.
Which
Yes.
players? And what
infractions?
infractions?
The infractions, the leaders who will not play by the rules.
Is that not a structure that produces those
That is
leaders?
not the structure.
That produces those
This
leaders?
is not a structure.
In 50 years,
It
we
is
are
not
still
a
in a
structure.
bind.
There are infractions
Yes.
by the leaders. Call them bad leaders. Call them people who, after being voted into power, do no longer listen to those who voted for them.
Why are you having bad
It's a
leaders?
different
Why
matter.
are you having bad leaders consistently?
Why? Is it the
It's
structure?
a structure that produces its own leaders.
It's not a structure.
Oh.
Are you saying that? Are you saying that if elections are held
Yes.
and the bad leader is voted in, you don't have powers to vote them out with the same structure?
Which rights?
Just
Do we vote clearly?
just a moment, gentlemen. Let's get something straight here. If you say the structure does not produce the leaders, what then produces the structure? Is it the leaders that produces the structure, or the structure produces the leaders? Let's get it straight
the
here.
leaders are produced within the structure. Okay. But it does not also mean that the structure that produces those leaders cannot produce good leaders.
It's like you go to a motor park now.
doesn't-
It's like you go to a motor park now. If you go to a motor park now,
You have bad leaders
do
who say
you-
the structure burn down the house.
when you get to motor park now, do you expect to see professors or touts?
Of course, you sit out.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm telling you.
You sit out.
So the structure they
Are
get
you
today
saying that you
now,
cannot see professors in the motor park?
that be an exception.
Why
Exception
would
for
it
the
be an
rule.
exception?
But
will the professor not
you
enter
only
a
see
university
touts
to
in
go-
so
to go to Buddha
the
Keke?
present structure in Nigeria today now
Yes.
recruits its own leaders, its own types, and that's why we have constantly. And you see, it's not going to happen. For how many years now have we been talking about? Oh, if we have good leaders, if we have good leaders, I'm telling you, on the basis of the structure we are running now, even if a good leader gets there, he will talk to something else.
Just a
He
moment.
will talk to something else because there are internal dynamics, there are rules of engagement. You cannot change it. This is the way this structure runs, and therefore, if you want to see development in this country, if you want to make any progress at all, you cannot continue to run on this structure. You cannot have an omnipotent Abuja dictating that for the rest of us. Look, there are certain functions today. For instance, what are you doing with the Federal Ministry of Agriculture? Agriculture in Bayelsa is not agriculture in Sokoto.
Hey,
So-
thank you,
And you
Mr.
think,
Maki.
and you think a constitutional amendment cannot solve that problem? And you think a constitutional amendment cannot solve that problem?
I mean, amendment
Of
have
course
you
it
made?
can.
I mean, amendment have
See,
you
the
made?
problem is, I want to take an example.
Yes.
When Obasanjo was here,
Yes.
he delved into some issues that annoyed some states. I can recall the Lagos state government dragged the federal government to court, to the
Yeah.
Supreme Court more than 3-4 times.
Yes. Tinubu went to court.
Yes,
Yes.
but that
Yeah.
is one issue that we always shy away from.
That's
Instead of ventilating our rights, we want to talk. We want to go to conference so that at the end of the recommendations come, who wants to give you freedom on a platter of gold? Nobody. You must fight for it.
part of the structure that we are not addressing, and I'm glad you mentioned it. Bola Tinubu went to the court in Lagos State.
Yes,
When about just seized the council funds.
of course.
Supreme
And the
Court,
issue of the-
Supreme Court said release that money. Did the person release it?
It didn't.
Because your structure your president today in Nigeria is about the most powerful president in this entire worldwide world.
To tell you the truth.
He can do and undo impunity and all kind of these are structural issues.